So, according to my YouTube analytics, 41.1% of my viewers are between the ages of 18 and 24. I was running a bit of an experiment here. If you are in that age range and you don't recognize the song I used in the beginning of the video, consider yourself lucky. You have failed my experiment, but at the cost of not being a degenerate. If you do, however, recognize that song and you are in that age range, I have some bad news for you. You are part of my little statistic of people who were exposed to shock content when they were minors, because that video came out in 2007. I was 4. I saw it when I was 6 on the family computer. If you're 24 and you've seen that video, I don't think you could have been more than 15 when you saw it. Like, I don't think you could have been older than that, because like the peak where people were reacting to that video, that's how I came across it. I came across it because I was watching my favorite YouTubers and they were reacting to this disgusting video. Curiosity got the better of me. And I saw like the first, not even a minute of the video, and I was never the same. So in this video, I want to talk about a few things. First of all, I want to talk about the effect of shock content, specifically on Gen Z, my generation. Because we were the first generation to grow up on the internet. Like, we don't know a world without it. We were born early enough where there really wasn't much moderation. Like, people call it the Wild West days of the internet, which it was. A lot of us had internet access at a really young age. And I think a lot of like Boomer and Gen X parents didn't necessarily foresee how messed up people are. And then I want to talk about Gen Alpha and how shock content manifests itself today. I think there's a difference in how kids today are being exposed to it, which I want to explore. So the first thing I want to talk about is how late millennial, early Gen Z kids were typically exposed to shock content in the first place. I've done some scouring on Reddit, but I've also talked from my personal experience, and I asked some of my friends like what their experience was, how they were, like if they were exposed and how they were exposed to shock content in the first place when they were younger. So the reaction genre has always been huge, and it started pretty early on YouTube, and the biggest YouTubers were doing it, and that's how I got to know about a lot of shock content, is because YouTubers I was watching were reacting to it as like a challenge. Who can watch it the longest? Or like they do a challenge and the punishment is you have to sit through this video. I think shock sites are really a staple of the 2000s. Websites on the surface web in front of everyone's eyes that were dedicated to disgusting content. But a lot of those were taken down. After watching my first few viral shock videos, I just wasn't curious anymore. I've seen enough and I wish to not see anymore. I was aware of websites like LiveLeak, BestGore, Rotten.com, Goatsy. I think Goatsy's still up. But I knew there were shock sites out there. And I don't think, like, most of them are gone. They're gone. They've been taken down. Because I think it's illegal. Like, I'm sure it violates some kind of law. But I know a lot of people who were on those sites. And you know, you're on the playground, your friend is like, hey, let me show you this fucked up video, and they show you like one guy, one horse, and they would have taken it from a website like that because, again, very easily accessible. I think shock videos are still very, very easy to look up and see, but I don't know if there's so much of like a database as there was, like, because literally these websites were like a database of gore. And another way that kids in the 2000s were, sorry, my glasses are lopsided. Better. Yeah, another way that a lot of people were exposed to shock content at a young age was just through regular streaming sites. On YouTube, it's always been this way. Like, it's pretty hard to watch cartoons because copyright. I would try to watch SpongeBob, and instead I got... But you know where I could watch full episodes of cartoons? Dailymotion. But of course, in order for these websites to have full episodes of cartoons, that's a sign their moderation is not great. A friend of mine who grew up in Russia explained to me that when she was younger, she used to watch cartoons on a Russian streaming site. And this is one that like a lot of people used. Like, it was known for streaming cartoons. It was advertised towards kids. And she's watching her show. And right there, in the recommended, a crush video. Why are they on a publicly accessible website that everyone uses? Why? I'm gonna be getting heated a lot in this video because it's a very serious topic. I think now, especially on YouTube, you're less likely to see it in your recommended. Sometimes YouTube shows you a random fucking video with no title or anything that randomly went viral, but I personally have never got gore in my recommended. The closest thing would be like fake animal rescue videos in especially YouTube shorts, and I'll get to that like YouTube shorts format later on. The kind of general consensus that I got from asking people how they were exposed to shock content was that they were exposed unwillingly, accidentally, and that I think is a huge problem. People just did not predict what was gonna happen. They did not predict that people would be posting videos of them getting fucked by a horse. When the internet was launched, you think there were a bunch of programmers sitting there like, well, we have to be careful, maybe we should do something, because maybe like a few years from now someone will post a video putting a jar in the like, people are making AI software that can deepfake people in real time, like on a video call. So maybe I shouldn't expect people to foresee things. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people, including myself, were exposed accidentally. And you would think, knowing what's out there, I would be able to avoid it better. But I can't. You know why? Because I follow a meme page, and all of a sudden they decide to sell out, and they either post or gore. I was following a meme page, and once they decided to wake up one day and post a video of a guy getting sucked into a conveyor belt. That's not what I followed you for. Traumatizing. Horrific. Unavoidable. And now we're gonna get into some hot takes. Something that I really think is negatively contributing to kids now, and even adults, to be honest, getting exposed to shock content is this short content scrolling format. TikTok definitely popularized it, because once TikTok included this like 60-second, you just scroll. Once that format was introduced by TikTok, everyone started to replicate it. Now we have Instagram Reels. I deleted TikTok. It poisoned my brain, ruined my relationship with people, and I decided to delete it. Now what do I have? Insta Reels that I'm addicted to. That's taking up most of my screen time. And then I know it's Meta, like Meta's gonna do what Meta's gonna do, and they're gonna introduce the same thing for all of their platforms, but Facebook Reels is a thing, and I would argue that Facebook Reels is even worse. The moderation on Facebook in general sucks because it's outdated, and if you don't already have an algorithm that's tailored to you, you're gonna get the most whack videos from halfway across the world from like an account with no profile picture and like 0 friends. And the biggest problem I see with this kind of displaying content to viewers is the fact that it just automatically plays. You don't have a choice in what you see. If there's a shock video going around that's getting reactions out of people, it's gonna go viral, and your algorithm is gonna think, viral video, let's show it to this person. It got so bad, I remember, that people were actually posting warnings, like videos, short, like TikToks and stuff, saying, hey guys, this video is going around. So if you see like the start of the video with a girl who's like this, if you see a girl dancing, skip. And that makes you so anxious. I was getting so paranoid that like I would scroll and I would see something like that. My god, so anxiety inducing. I shouldn't have to be on a social media platform and be scared that I'm gonna watch someone shoot themselves. And it's the same problem on Instagram Reels and Facebook and YouTube Shorts now. Twitter is having the same problem. They'll show you an account that you don't necessarily follow, but it has a bunch of videos. That's where, for example, cat blender video came from. I don't follow no context humans, but I still got them in my feed. Luckily, I didn't see that video. I saw warnings about that video. Also, I took the step to disable autoplay as soon as it was announced that you can't block people. Because I'm not blocking people because I'm petty. I'm blocking people because I don't want to see gore on my feed. Damn, like, is it that crazy of a concept? I don't care about Elon Musk. I don't need to block him. Whatever, he's annoying, but I don't care enough to block him. I'm trying to block people who are posting videos of cats in blenders. Something that was really dumb on TikTok's part that I remember for a very brief period, and it was very brief because of this exact problem I'm going to talk about. You could temporarily set your profile picture to a GIF. I think you know where this is going. People were posting video 1444 as their profile picture, and the thing is, it's their profile picture, so you don't have a choice to skip it. You have to watch the GIF play because it's their profile picture, and you can't even report them because to report someone, you have to go on their profile. So it's the GIF just played larger on your screen over and over and over again, and you have to expose yourself to that in order to report that person. In my opinion, they should have seen it coming. Like, I think for any kind of change in terms of technology, you have to assume the worst. You also have to assume that people want to target kids. People want to traumatize kids. People get off on just the idea that there's a kid somewhere out there crying because they saw a video like that. And the example I'm going to bring up a few examples, but the main one I want to talk about was the whole situation, the K-pop fan cam situation. Who makes up the majority of K-pop fans? Young girls. Like, I'm not part of the fandom, I don't know anything about K-pop, but I just know it's huge. People make fan edits all the time. So it was just a perfect storm of something absolutely horrible to happen. You have a large, vulnerable fan base and short-form content that you cannot avoid watching. I first heard the warnings before I saw the actual accounts. But there were accounts that would always go under a creepy, distorted K-pop idol profile picture who would not only post, like, gore on their pages, but they would DM people, ask them, like, what are you afraid of or something, and then send gore. My heart is beating, because I remember the situation. I saw some things. Whew! It would start off completely and this was on Instagram. Like, you could find this so easily. It wasn't getting taken down. Like, it would be up there for a few days. Because I was checking. I wanted to see, like, was Instagram actually doing something about it? But I would see the same fucking video on a person's page up there. The most common ones that I saw and I heard people talking about were, like, the not good ones. How can I say it without getting demonetized? Not being very nice to self ones. Also, there was the whole Momo situation, which was for quite a brief period of time, but it had such an effect. Like, it was on the news. My parents knew about it. That's how mainstream it was. My parents knew about this. Like, kids would be watching Peppa Pig, and boom, Momo, and like red text telling them to hurt their family or something. I feel bad for I obviously feel bad for the kids, but I feel bad for this random artist out there who made a sculpture and it was completely stripped away from them and turned into something used to traumatize kids. I think a big difference between shock content in the 2000s and shock content now is there aren't so many, like, legacy videos, I would say. This could be just because it's so much easier to share stuff nowadays. Like, it's so, like, social media is so saturated with all kinds of videos. The descriptions of gore are more vague, whereas I think in the 2000s there weren't as many. So the ones that there were stuck. They have the title, you know which ones I'm talking about? Legacy videos that have stood the test of time. There's so much, very little stands out, except for example like the cat blender one and like the Ronnie McNutt video. But those are the only two recent ones that I can think really stuck in people's brains. And I don't mean like, because legacy sounds like it's something positive. I literally just mean like ones which are so bad that people are going to think about them for years to come. It's also very important to address the effect of shock content, not just on us as viewers, but the poor people who have to moderate that stuff. And a large percentage of these people who have to moderate this type of content have PTSD. A computer isn't gonna need therapy after seeing someone get run over, you know? That's why a lot of companies use AI now to avoid subjecting real humans to this, because there's a lot that still goes under the radar, and because also the reporting systems are AI, you're gonna get an automated response usually when you report a video. I would like to see like what the contribution of shock content is to people who go on to commit murders, who are in the Gen Z late millennial age range, like school shooters and stuff. We look at historically serious. Let's take like Richard Ramirez as an example. He was exposed to violent content by a family member at a very young age, which led to this kind of morbid fascination, let alone someone who can do a quick Google search and find all kinds of stuff. I remember reading about individual cases, and it would be mentioned somewhere that like, oh yeah, by the way, this person had a concerning search history, this person was fascinated in this and that. But I cannot find like a percentage, like data, that kind of thing. But I think that's something worth researching. Like me personally, I would not feel comfortable around someone that brags about all of the stuff they watch. Like, I've met people growing up who brag about all of the gore they watch and how they're desensitized, and I don't care. Like, I watch gore all the time and it doesn't do anything to me. It's done something to you. The fact that you can watch that and not have like an intense visceral reaction, that is bad. That's not good. There's no universe in which it's normal to be able to watch someone die in a tragic way and it doesn't severely upset you. But something that I kind of like seeing is I think Gen Z is starting to really be aware of this. I see memes all the time like this one. Like, I think Gen Z is starting to really be aware of the fact that the stuff they saw when they were younger, they probably shouldn't have seen it. It probably messed them up in some way mentally. I remember when I posted, like, my Funky Town animation, if in case you didn't know, I made this video, and, like, 50% of the comments were, like, referencing the Funky Town cartel video. It was either, like, people who don't know, people who know, or, like, this video cured my association of this song with that video. Like, people were referencing that video. And again, seeing that most of my viewership is pretty young, like in the grand scheme of things, when you're 18 to 24, your frontal lobe is not developed, but a lot of people have seen that video, and that's concerning. But I like that Gen Z is starting to be a bit self-aware about this stuff, and I think a lot of people are coming out and exposing these people who are desensitized to gore and just saying it how it is. You are not cool. You are a concerning, not well-adjusted individual. There's desensitization to gore that can result from the overexposure of shock content, which, to be honest, I think seeing anything is overexposure. You shouldn't have to see even one video like that, in my opinion. But I think the opposite end of the spectrum is when you watch that kind of stuff, you become anxious. You become irrationally anxious because there's so many like Final Destination style videos where you're like, oh my god, I saw a video of someone crossing the street and getting run over by a bus. I saw someone get sucked into a lathe, you know? You just get paranoid. I saw someone get killed by an elevator. I saw a video of someone fall through the floor of an escalator and get crushed. So now, at the end of the escalator, on the little metal plating, I skip. I long jump. Because I don't want that to be me. And if I hear it rattle a bit, whoo, I get so scared. And it's not a good place to be, where you are constantly anxious of how you might die because you saw someone get killed in that way. It's not a productive way of living. Like, I'm sure there's some psychologist out there who's done a thesis on this. I'm sure there's also people, like adrenaline junkies, who are addicted to the fight or flight response that watching gore gives you, because you're watching someone die. You're watching someone in a very life-threatening situation, which sets off your fight or flight. So I don't know, I'm sure some depressed person out there is watching that just to feel something, honestly. To elaborate on the desensitization thing, I have caught myself being desensitized to some types of gore, specifically when it comes to war. So, trigger warning, I'm going to talk about current events, I'm going to talk about humanitarian tragedies. I have to be honest and say that the majority of graphic content I have seen in the last few years has either come from, or again, I'm not saying it because YouTube is a bit iffy about this kind of stuff, but the internet has really shown war in a way that it's never been shown before. I remember I was scrolling through my Instagram reels and I saw a video of two parents celebrating their child's first steps. And directly under that, the very next video was a father holding his child who was killed in an airstrike. I just got this feeling of dystopian apocalyptic dread that I can see something like a celebration of life and see someone whose child was just, and then I have to move on with my day, and 3 hours away from me is where people are experiencing it firsthand. I have the privilege of being able to turn that off. I should not be able to see this like one after another and be even remotely okay for the rest of the day. I should see that and have a fucking breakdown. Like, I follow journalists because I think it's important to educate myself, because the media isn't doing it, the news isn't doing it, so I have to take it upon myself to be aware. And it's kind of my fault, because in wanting to stay informed and refusing to delude myself into thinking there's any kind of mercy in this context, I am exposing myself to this type of stuff every day and unwillingly desensitizing myself, when really the only people who have any excuse to be desensitized are the people who are experiencing it. So where does this leave us as a generation, as millennials, as Gen Z, and as Gen Alpha? For the Gen Z kids who do plan on having kids, becoming parents, we have this new level of responsibility that our parents did not necessarily have. We have the very unique experience of being the first generation to always have the internet around us. We don't have the excuse of being uninformed that our parents had. As I said, I give my parents benefit of the doubt because they could not have foreseen the true degeneracy of the human race on the internet. So we have this new responsibility of being vigilant of what our future kids are watching on the internet, and it's not from the same place of what they could see, like hypothetically what they could see. We know exactly what they could potentially be exposed to. And you know what? Technology is going to keep evolving. People are going to find new ways to traumatize kids in ways that we, even though we grew up with the internet, we're not going to be able to keep up with. But at least we don't have the excuse of being totally clueless. Anyway, that's all I have to say about this topic. Ciao alaikum. Thank you for watching.